Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this session of Tea with Trustee. My name is Shola Salako. I'm a trustee, a professional accredited trustee with Dariada. I've been a trustee for the past 3 years, and I'm now going to hand over to my colleague, Adrian Campbell.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Tea with the Trustee this afternoon also. I am Adrian Campbell. I'm also a professional accredited trustee and I've worked for Dariada Trustees since 2017. I manage a wide range of pension schemes and my previous experience in pensions was working for the pensions regulator. I think we're just waiting for a number of other participants to join. So if you just bear with us for a little while whilst we see the numbers increase, and then we'll give it a minute or two and then we'll get going.
Yeah, I would kick off, Shola, I think.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay, again, my name is Shola Salako. I'm going to start, even though we're expecting about or more than 60 people registered to attend, and the numbers have rapidly climbed to, in fact, as I speak, they are rapidly climbing. They've just climbed to 28. So I'll now begin. As I said, I'm a professional accredited trustee. This Tea with the Trustee is looking at administration, and I'm going to start off with a question of what has been our experience over the past year. I'm just going to take us back a bit to what I think is important about administration. So before I answer the question, I just think it's good to remember that administration is a critical touch point for members. It is when most members will come into contact with pension schemes. And when that happens for a lot of members, it's a stressful point in their lives. For a lot of members also, they're only going to retire once. So administration is effectively the face of pensions for a lot of our members. What have I seen during the past year? The third-party administrators have generally kept service levels up, and they've tried to remain responsive to us as trustees and to members. It hasn't been all smooth sailing. One or two examples. I'll give one example is where I had members coming to us as trustees or coming to me as a trustee with complaints of delays. And to address this, we had a conversation with the administrators concerned and agreed that members would be given a timescale for when to expect a response. This meant that members stopped coming to the trustees with questions and queries about how long the queries were going to take. And one of the good things was that if, for instance, a date was promised and it couldn't happen, the administrator would let the members know. So that's one of the things that I've seen in the last year. Another one is the flexibility by administrators. All administrators I've seen so far, which has been quite good, to accept other ways to prove identity. As you know, in the last year, because of COVID-19, it hasn't been as easy for people to send passports and various other documents that administration would normally ask for. So yeah, third-party administrators have been much more flexible in considering other ways to accept members are who they say they are. I'm going to hand over to Adrian to give us his comments. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Shola. I would echo a lot of the points that you've already made, but I've got some different experiences that I've encountered over the last year, so I'll share those with everyone. I work with a large range of different administrator firms for the schemes that I manage. And I would say at the start of the pandemic, there were a handful of firms where I experienced some instances of them not being able to keep to the agreed service levels. But obviously this was understandable due to the pandemic and them having to arrange for all their staff to work from home and the IT to be transferred, like phones and laptops, etc. So this was relatively short-lived. After a couple of months, I then encountered more normal service levels. That said, over the past year, I have encountered a few instances where service has been slower than expected in relation to, say, some members contact me direct to say they've requested a pension quotation or a transfer value, and they haven't actually heard anything from the administrator. We, as a trustee, always send out communications quite regularly to members, so it's important that we also state our direct contact details, which we find quite useful for, if members are experiencing difficulties, they can give us a call direct. Whenever I receive a request from a member, I would refer it on to the relevant administrator, and I would also ask for quite a quick acknowledgement by return, and then a confirmation as to when they've actually processed the member's request. I kind of set up a diary note to make sure that they follow up with me on the email. This doesn't always happen, which is a bit disappointing. I recently had a trustee meeting with an administrator firm in attendance, and I kind of pointed that out to them, and they acknowledged that it would be useful to provide such confirmation, and they're going to be taking that forward. So that's a wait and see. So those are my experience that I've experienced over the last year. I think another point I wanted to touch on was we recently, on one of my schemes, went through a new tender exercise for an administrator, and it was somewhat different because of having to do everything online. The process in terms of asking for a request for proposal was relatively straightforward, and they sent that through. But when it got to the pitch stage, we had to do that online with the relevant firms that were tendering. And I didn't think the process run as so well, because it would have been useful to see them face to face and get to know the personalities a bit more, and see if the team that were proposing was the right fit for the scheme. So I'm sort of looking forward to, if I run any future tender exercises, to have that kind of face-to-face element when deciding to choose an administrator. So that's the first question. We have another question. It is, the second question is, what changes and innovations are taking place for members? So what of our experience in that regard? And I'm going to start off on that one first. So well, I think it's pretty well known that with all aspects of our finances, modern technology is shaping our lives, especially with how we access all of our relevant finances, whether or not that be bank accounts, investments, shares and pensions. We're tending to use online websites, member portals and mobile phone applications a lot more now. For the schemes that I manage, I am definitely seeing an acceleration in the move to a more modern approach for scheme administration from some of the administrative firms that I'm working with. And therefore, I think that the member experience is actually improving with their access to scheme websites, and some of them have set up member portals and mobile phone applications. So the advantages I see are that members have access to their real-time data and access to their personal information and financial data, and they can actually sort of make changes to, say, their address or request certain quotations from the administrator. And member portals can provide members with details about their current benefits and early retirement modelling, and provide details of their accrued benefits and projected pensions at normal retirement date. So all of this is leading to, advanced technology for members to access their specific pension, and I think the sort of outcome of that is it's less work for the administrator if members are not having to contact them direct to obtain such quotations, etc. So I'm going to pass to Shola now for your comments on that.
Yeah, I think before I begin, I see we have 32 participants. Can I please encourage you to ask questions and please also make comments? That would be very much welcome. To go back to what Adrian was just speaking about, I suppose my comment to you, Adrian, is some older people, or even not necessarily some older people, might still prefer paper rather than, because it's what people are used to, but we'll see. To answer the question, I think to an extent, Adrian, you're correct that there has been some innovation around technology and administrators are investing in technology. The other group that I've seen who provide a sleek online offering have been some of the large DC providers. The offering is just amazing. However, apart from that, I haven't actually seen that much innovation taking place for members. And I suppose that speaks to the sort of schemes that I'm seeing as opposed to yours. So yeah, there are still members who would like paper. I think the point I'd like to make is that where possible, administrators are sensitive to or able to deal with the different ways that members wish to be communicated with. I think that's the point I'm trying to make. Another question that we're looking at today is what best practice we would like to see. I'm going to speak on this first before I pass over to Adrian. As I said earlier, right at the start, administration is a key touch point for members. So for me, best practice would be to see members' queries dealt with promptly and accurately. And if administration is the face of pensions, then that must be one of the key priorities for administration. Again, to go back to the points Adrian just made about technology, online access and use of apps where possible or where desirable. Some of us, I'm not sure Adrian's one of them, uses online banking. But I think, so in that case, some of us use online banking, some of us still prefer to use paper, some of us prefer to use telephone banking. So, it's back to the whole thing about how members wish to be communicated with. And then the third point I'd like to make about best practice from a trustee perspective is that spending on administration is considered as an investment. We've all learned through GMP equalization, yes, that project that's still running, that good data is absolutely necessary for pensions. I mean, it's not just for administration, it's necessary for actuarial evaluations and so on. And another thing, what Pensions Dashboard has also shown us is that we must have good data for the right fields, for the various fields. So whenever possible, and again, for instance, when you're changing administrators, use that as an opportunity, as Adrian spoke earlier about the transition. So those kind of transitions, where they happen, use that as an opportunity to look at the data, what's missing, what do we need to get right, and see that as an investment in getting administration and the service both to the trustees and to the members and to the other various stakeholders who need good data. Use that as an opportunity to get the data right. I'm now going to pass over to Adrian for his comments.
Thank you, Shola. I've just seen a comment come up from Kim that you might want to, sort of on the back of what you just said, respond on. Can you
Oh,
see
yes. Thank you, Kim. Kim, I've just seen it. Yes, clearly, innovation for both DB and DC automation creates efficiency. And yep, you're right. It doesn't have to be web-based. Thank you for acknowledging that those who don't want to use technology we need to remember them, and we need to, where they say to us that, you know what, I'd actually prefer bits of paper. I want something to look at. I want something to read. Then that as trustees and as administrators, we are able to respond to them in a way that allows them to engage with the pension scheme. Thank you.
Thank you, Shola. I guess I should reference that, I've worked with you for a number of years now, and I know you're quite an advocate of working with paper, whereas I'm more of a sort of into the apps, etc. So it's good that there's a balance there that, as referenced by Kim, that we should sort of cater for all members' requirements in that regard. So just moving on to my own thoughts on this question. I think I'd also want to stress that, due to the increasing governance for trustees of pension schemes that's coming about, we're expecting more and more from our administrators. And there needs to be a recognition that this has and already will continue lead to increasing costs going forward. Historically, administration has been considered lower down the ranks in total overall scheme expenditure, and this definitely needs to change. So some of my ideas for best practice going forward, I think that it would be useful if trustees and administrators worked more closely together to be more proactive in assisting with the scheme management and governance. So some examples I have were liaising with the trustee at the start of a new scheme year to agree the business plan, provide in advance the budget, the administrator's budget for the scheme, and thereafter provide regular updates. That's always very useful. Ensuring that project plans are in place for more bespoke administration projects and regular progress on that project plan is reported back. I think sometimes it would be useful if there was a more early warning of a member complaint that's been made to an administrator. If that could be shared with the trustee earlier on, and then we can provide our input at an earlier stage. And last but not least, I really do think there needs to be a sort of more of a continual tracing program in place for all schemes, with the administrators leading that, to make sure that members that they haven't been able to trace or they've lost contact with are attempted to be traced, because I think it's important that we try and keep the records as up to date as possible, and so we can send out relevant communications to members, that they understand what pension they have, and it helps with their planning for the future. So I think I'm going to now pass back to Shola. We've had some questions in, haven't we? And you're going to take the first one.
Yeah, I'm going to again encourage those who are listening to us to please ask questions and to please make comments. It's welcomed. Yeah, so the first question we had from before was from Derek Scott at Stagecoach Group. He asked, how have interactions between pensions administration and internal and external auditors changed? I suppose the thing is, with the COVID-19 lockdown, it hasn't been easy, or I shouldn't even say easy, it hasn't been possible even to go into the office in the way that was the case before. So a lot of audits have had to be remote audits, and which has meant that communication has been really important, because the timelines are still, or rather the deadlines, the timelines still exist. So that's one thing that I've seen. The other is that in audits happening now, auditors are asking for much more information around assets and around going concern. So that's meant that the trustee and the administrator have now had to ask these questions, which perhaps they haven't had to answer before. I'm going to, Adrian, you're going to take the second question that we had?
Yes, that's right. Yes. The next question we had was from Andrew Gibson at Clarkson's, and he raises the question, do trustees actually ever need to meet in the future? Thank you for that question, Andrew. So from my perspective, during the pandemic, we have obviously had to hold trustee meetings online using our Teams facility. In the main, I think they've been relatively successful. What we found, though, is that meetings have been more shorter and focused on the number of the current matters at hand, recognising that the more sort of traditional 3 to 4 hour trustee meeting is probably a bit too much for being online and can be sort of tiring. So therefore, we're finding that we're having more shorter regular meetings on a scheme. Although I think it would always be possible to run meetings this way, I do believe there should be a mixture going forward with at least 1, maybe 2 face-to-face trustee meetings a year, because I think it's important that trustees are able to interact face-to-face with their other trustees and the scheme advisors, as that helps build and maintain relationships. And I think with those kind of face-to-face trustee meetings, you can also dovetail in other sort of like a trustee training part of the day as well, which is more useful to have that face-to-face. I mean, well, I'm dealing with a buyout on one of my schemes at the moment, and that's quite sort of fast and fast moving, and that definitely works for more of a Teams call. You don't need to have regular face-to-face meetings on that. So for bespoke scheme projects, I think it works quite well, but for the more traditional trustee meeting, I think there needs to be a mix. I'm going to pass back to Shola now for another question that's been received.
Yeah, before I move to that question, I want to agree with that final point that you made about buyouts. Or projects, not necessarily buyouts, is that as before, you just have these calls, and they're almost technically like trustee meetings, but they only last half an hour because you have to update, or you need to update, or you need quick decisions, and it's so much easier to have, I don't know, whether it's a Teams meeting or a Zoom meeting, whichever one it is, to discuss and make decisions. So yeah, there's certainly the face of trustee meeting has changed for the future. So the third question that came through, please ask questions, is from Andy Palmer, BDO. What do you expect to be the biggest challenges for DB schemes over the next 12 months? That's a fantastic question. I would suggest it's a whole topic by itself. And I'm going to suggest it as a T with a trustee subject for a future Tea with Trustee. However, to answer it quickly today, I would say that the challenges for DB schemes the next 12 months focus around sponsors' ability to fund the pension schemes in the economic environment in which they find themselves. I mean, there's certain industries that have done quite well in during this COVID-19, the lockdowns, but other industries, and I'm sure you can think of them, have really struggled. So those kind of things are going to be important for sponsors. Another one is the increasing governance for trustees, including TPR powers. And then the other one, which we've touched on, is the purpose of administration. So administrators will continue to focus on technology. They'll need to focus on technology to be more efficient, as Kim has said. They'll also need to focus on technology they'll also need to focus on the speed of their responses to members, the speed and the quality of their responses to members, and things like service levels. And finally, they'll also need to focus on getting the data right, having the right data so that they can carry out the big projects like GMP equalization and the pensions dashboard. Those are my comments on the particular question, on that particular question. I don't know have we had any questions come through, or?
No.
We've had a specific comment made. Sorry, we've only just got to that from an anonymous attendee, and referencing the fact that they've had quite poor service from a particular administrator, and in relation to a lady that's been widowed since February and still hasn't had her pension. I guess from a trustee's perspective, we would be wanting to engage with the relevant firm to really sort of push this along if it hasn't already happened. I don't know if you had any comments on that, Shola.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think trustee, one of the things that administrators, and this is why I think I said it right at the beginning, is we are the face of pensions. I mean, if you are the administration, you are the face of pensions. So if I'm just going back to the comment. If someone dies in February and it's now June and they haven't got her pension, just imagine what that woman is going to be saying, that widow will be saying to others in her circle about pensions. So, I mean, it's not only is it a case of the level of service, it also speaks to the industry. People are going to, you know how well, Adrian, how well good service goes, but also how bad service travels. So, I mean, everyone can see the name of the provider. So we must never forget that members are key stakeholders and that we need to be sensitive. And also, I think I said earlier, I'm just trying to remember earlier, I think I said at a stressful point, that was the words I used, stressful points in their lives. Death is a stressful point. So why wouldn't you act as quickly as you can and do all you can? And if it's going to be slower, explain to the members why it's going to be slower. But yeah.
Thank you, Shola. We've had another comment of a similar nature just posted, and again a distressing situation of her father passing away in April, but mum still haven't received her spouse's pension. So yeah, I guess that's just, these are examples of the poor service which it needs to be addressed. And I just reiterate the point that as a trustee of the scheme, if we do come across that with our own schemes, then we'd really want to be picking that up and making sure that there was prompt action and getting engagement.
Yeah, I completely agree. And it's, if you look at complaints to the pensions ombudsman, why wouldn't you complain to them? Why wouldn't those kind of complaints about delays? Delays is one of the things that gets to the pensions ombudsman. Why wouldn't delays get to the pensions ombudsman in such distressing circumstances? However, I think our time is up.
Yes, it is. I mean, the time goes quickly with these discussions on the half an hour, and I hope you've found that interesting to the points we've made on the questions, and thank you for your attendance. A recording of this will be posted shortly after, and if the Ariada office often run these quite regularly, at least once a month, and we'd welcome your attendance at future ones. Did you have anything else to say, Shola?
No, just to say thank you for coming. This, as Adrian says, this is going to be posted on our YouTube channel. And please attend future ones, future Tea with Trustees. I think they happen monthly. Yeah. So look out for the next one, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank you very much.